Hi, my name is Deb Weiss-Gelmi, and today's sequence is a restorative sequence that is meant to support us in maintaining a healthy body. So it's pretty prop heavy today, so you might need to pause this and go find some props. But you'll need 3 to 5 blankets of this size and texture. Also, towels could work as well, either bath towels or beach towels. You'll need a chair. A dining room chair could work if you don't have a folding chair. There are times when you might need a block or a footstool, a strap or a necktie, a bolster. If you don't have a bolster like this, then a couch cushion might be able to work. So we'll give it a shot with props that are around your house, and we'll see how it goes. Our first pose is a supported Uttanasana. So Uttanasana is an intense stretch forward. So you can start out with your head either on a chair seat or on the back of the chair, just depending on the backs of your legs and how tight they are at this time. You could also possibly use a block here. It's good if you can have your head supported. You could even put your head on that couch cushion that we talked about, or a bolster, or the footstool. So finding something for your head will be good. So Uttanasana. Start in Tadasana with your feet hip distance apart. And then you can use the chair or a tabletop or something to rest your head on. So then put your hands on your hips, point your elbows toward the back, lift your chest up, lengthen forward, and find where your head best rests. So we can do this one together. Just feeling where might be your best spot to rest your head. And it will likely change as your backs of your thighs begin to lengthen while we're in the pose. So you stay in the pose as you are. I'm just going to move through a couple different ways of supporting yourself. So many of us have a couch cushion, so I'm just going to show you that. But go ahead and stay in Uttanasana. If you haven't found a way that works for you yet, you can maybe try some of these that I'm showing you. You could rest your head on the couch cushion. You could stack up some pillows on the couch cushion to eventually maybe find the top of your head. It's going to be different for everybody. There's no better or worse. It's just finding props that support you where you are. Don't take your body to the props. So finding different heights here. You could stack up pillows from the floor. You could stack up your blocks. Different ways to support yourself. It's just in this particular sequence it's best to be having your head on support. And while you're in the pose, you might find that the backs of your thighs are opening up, and you might be able to go a little deeper. You want to try to keep it so your heels are under your hips. You know, if you find that you're almost to something, you could either take your legs a little bit wider, or if you're on something and you're starting to get a little heavy, you can meaning the back of your neck is not as lengthened as it should be, you can bring the legs back together a little bit more. But enjoying your Uttanasana wherever you are. Just allowing the backs of those thighs to soften and open. If you have your towels and a block, you could stack those up. There's just endless ways to support this pose. Try to keep the hips over the heels, meaning not having your buttocks go behind your legs or in front of your legs, but right up over those heels. Uttanasana. then to come on out. You can use the props to come out. Be sure you are in an inversion, so be careful that you have support around you if you feel dizzy at all. And then Adho Mukha Svanasana, so downward facing dog. So in this version of Adho Mukha Svanasana, we want to have the head supported. So there are different ways we can do that. We can use a block, we can use a bolster, we can use a blanket. Then you can fold them, maybe tri-fold them, and have them on your mat for where your head will rest. So you can stack your blankets really high if your head is going to be pretty high. Okay, so I'll show you really quickly. And if you've seen this video a couple times, of course, you can just go straight into it. So you want the blankets so they're somewhat under your ribs here, under your navel, under your ribs. And then when you lift up and take the thighs back and let the head rest. So right now I'm finding this height is too high for me, so I take some of it out and rest that crown of my head down. Okay, so let's do it together. It sometimes takes a little bit to figure out what support you need for your head, but we're going to hold this for a little bit. So you want to make sure that your head is fully supported. So you decide what you want to try. Have things around you so you can grab different things to try different heights. Okay, so once you get those props around you, then we will go in together. So the hands are out in front of your shoulders a little bit. Press through the pointer finger mound. Lift and lengthen through the inner shoulder up toward the hips. Press the thighs back. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen the torso back. And then allow the head to rest on its prop. It is not likely that the first time you do it that you will have the exact prop you need. So you might have to work at it a little bit to find one that suits you. And as you're in the pose, just like in the pose before this, Uttanasana, just like in that, as you're in the pose, you will begin to lengthen and muscles will stretch and you will need different props as you're in the pose. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you're able to just change the pose a little bit to go a little bit higher maybe if you're starting to feel, that the props are shortening your neck. You might be able to bring the legs in a little bit, but ideally you want to take the props away if you're, take out what you don't need. You might find that you're needing to raise the height of the prop as well. So it's going to be different for everybody, and it's going to be different for you each time you practice this. The height that you need. Now we're going to stay in this pose for a while, so you can come out and in as you need. Here's one way to rest. You can come down for an Adho Mukha Virasana for a moment. And then you can go back into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Soften the muscles on your face. Come in and out as you need to. And then we'll come on down. Our next pose is Prasarita Padottanasana. So in this pose, you'll want to be able to rest your head. So it's going to be similar to these other poses that we've done where you're just going to have to figure out which is the best prop for you. I will show you from the side so you can see. And again, if you already know this pose, you can go into it. But I'll show different props so you can see. But again, we want to rest the head for this one. So I'll show you quickly and then you can start to play with your own props. So we'll take our feet wide. Put the hands on the hips, lift the chest, move from the back armpit to the front armpit, lifting the chest up. Shoulders flowing toward the elbows, lifting, lifting. And then we'll lead forward or lean forward. And then this is where, depending on your flexibility, your head might rest on your forearms. And then my hips are too far back, so I'd have to move the chair a little bit to rest the head. It might be that you're resting the head on a block, different heights of the block. And it might be that you're resting your head all the way to the floor. And so if that's the case, your triceps roll toward each other and your shoulders away from the ears. So different heights for each person, but the main thing is that you rest your head. So then to come out, I flow my inner thighs back, hands on the hips, and lift up with the chest. Okay? So you'll just need to play with the props again, and you'll probably be playing with the props when you're in the pose. So you decide what you need. So Prasarita Padottanasana. Take your legs wide. Feel the full surface of the feet. Feel the full circle of the heel and the toe mounds across. Put your hands onto your hips and use the leverage of your hand on your hips to lift the side chest up, broaden across the collarbones, shoulders away from the ears and flowing toward the elbows. And then to go forward, extend the chest forward as your inner thighs go to the wall behind you. And then your hands will go down onto the floor or blocks. It depends. You might have your hands up on blocks. And then you're going to figure out how to best support your head. So you'll have the blocks, you'll have block options, anything that you have around. You might have a blanket in here like this. But your hands, as you go down, your hands are staying shoulder width apart. So even if your head is resting up here, you want to try to get to the crown of your head, but everybody's different. The shoulder, if your head goes all the way down, then your hands are in line with your feet and your triceps move toward each other. Shoulders off the ears. So you really want to find support for your head. We're going to stay here for a little while. Try to soften the muscles on your face. Notice if you're tensing in your neck or throat, and soften. Soften depending upon how you are. Soften the muscles that you're not using and use the muscles that you're using. So for me, with my head all the way down, I need to lift my shoulders up. But if you're hanging your arms in different ways, it might be different. Soften the face, the jaw, the neck, the throat. Feel your abdomen spread. With your abdomen, see if you can find those two sides of the navel and draw them back and spread wide. Soften the inner thighs. And then we're going to come out of this fairly slowly. So if you're all the way down, you'll come up to more of a half version. And it will be different for everyone coming out. But put your hands onto your hips, point your elbows to the ceiling, and lift up. And then bring the feet back together. And our next pose is Shirsasana, headstand. So if you practice headstand, you can just go into it. Otherwise, I'll do a demo so you can see. For Shirsasana, you'll fold your mat in half and then in half again and place the mat against the wall. And then clasp your fingers together. The webbing comes tightly together and then the fingers are fairly loose. And then the thumbs just join together as well. And the elbows will be right underneath the shoulders. So knuckles against the wall, elbows underneath the shoulders. Press the forearms down a couple inches from the wrist. And then lift the inner shoulder. Take the head down right in front of the hands. Press the forearms down, lift the legs, and then kick a leg up. Heels on the wall. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. So press the forearms down, lift the inner shoulders up, shoulder blades into the back. Lift your top buttock toward your heels. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. Little toe side comes back toward the hips. Now if you are staying with your feet on the wall, then you'll just continue to lengthen your heels up the wall. If you're doing your headstand away from the wall, then you'll take your feet off the wall. And if you're practicing in the middle of the room, that's fine as well. So press the forearms down, lift the inner shoulder up, lift, extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. Press the forearms down, lift the inner shoulders up. Take your shoulder blades into the back. Take your collarbones up toward the ceiling. Lift the top buttock up toward the feet. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. Sometimes it's helpful to take your feet 6 inches apart or so. Lift that top buttock up and then rejoin the legs. So while you're in the pose, you continually go back to the points that we've already been working on. So you press the forearms down, lift the inner shoulder up. Be sure that your shoulder blades are not rounding back toward the wall. If that happens at all, you need to come out. The shoulder blades into the back. And then lift that top buttock toward the heels. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. Little toe mound coming back toward the outer hips. Make sure you have tension in your face and jaw. Soften the face. Press the forearms down. Lift the inner shoulder up. Shoulder blades into the back. Lift the top buttock up. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. Little toe mound comes back to those outer hips. And then anytime you need to come down, you'll come down and go into Adho Mukha Virasana, downward facing hero pose. Some people call it child's pose. So you'll rest with your forehead on the floor.
Those of you still in it, we'll go one more time. Press the forearms down. Lift the inner shoulder up. Shoulder blades into the back. Soften the abdomen, but lift your buttock up. Extend through the inner legs, through the inner heels, big toe mound. A little toe side comes back, that outer hip. And then to come down, you can come down one leg at a time or with a tuck, if you know the tuck. And then scoot away from the wall enough so you can stretch those arms out in front of you to rest your head on the floor. Adho Mukha Virasana. And then we'll come on up.
Our next pose is Supta Virasana. Supta is reclined and Virasana is hero's pose. And so you'll take your mat and lay it out. And this is the one where you'll have to figure out how your props will work best. So we need one blanket that we lie down for under the legs. And then we'll need the others for under the back. So if the blanket is this size, fold it in half for a narrow fold. Another way is if you have a bolster. And so, and if you're on carpeting, then you don't need as much under your legs as well. So I'm going to show you with the bolster, just to show if you have all the props, and then we'll need a blanket under the head. Okay, so you might have to pause to get a setup like this and then come back. Once you have your prop set, then watch first. I'll show you a few different parts of it and then we'll do it together. So I put my feet on each side of my support. I reach into the backs of the knees and pull the calf muscles away from the knees and out to the side. And you can even kind of press down on that outer calf muscle to take down that outer knee. And then you sit back between your heels. And so if you're on a little bit of a height, then the heels are down below. And then we'll just sit up and I'll talk you through some points here. We'll stay here for a little while. And some of you might stay here the whole time. So you'll decide, but just still watch. For the next part, I scoot forward. And then I have this bolster behind me and I lift up. Lift the chest, moving from the back armpit to the front armpit, lying back, and then allowing my head to be supported on the blanket. Now this is going to look different for each person. So this is one height. Some people might eventually go a little bit lower. Some people might need a little more height. So if you need more height, then you can add more blankets in there. You know, this blanket could become part of the height, and you can, I'm just trying to show you quickly, if you're doing this for yourself, you wouldn't stay in this pose to try to shift some of the blankets, but you can add more height. So you'd stagger this a bit, and then go back, and you could even rest your head on a block. So you can do whatever height works for you. Okay, and then when we do come out, then we'll lift up, and then go forward, cross these shins, and come back, and we'll sit in Dandasana. Okay, so we'll do this together. Now that you have seen the different heights, maybe you can set these up so the blankets are a little staggered back from this beginning, like stair steps. Okay, so once you're set, we're going to start out in Virasana where we don't go back yet. So we'll start out, so go to the backs of the knees, pull the calves away and out to the side. And then you'll sit back on whatever you've got for support here. Softening the inner thighs out to the knees. You can even sort of hold on or pull up the skin of the knees. Sometimes you can feel the shins release there. You can press down on the outer knees by taking those outer calves down a little bit. Or I should say you press down on the outer calves and take the knees down a little bit. Soften the abdomen, lift and lengthen. And so we'll stay here for a little bit to soften the thighs. We don't want to rush the knees and the connections to our knees. And now if you start to go back and you find you don't have enough height under you, then come out carefully as I showed you before. Get the new height, a greater height, and then try again. So now to go back, you must move forward to get off the height, because that will make it harder if you do it with the height underneath you. So move yourself forward, and it's okay if you don't go all the way down here, because you'll have the support under you. So I started to go back. I was too close to the bolster. So you can hold on to your support, lift up, and go back. And then you really want to get so you are supported fully. And if this is new for you, you might only stay for a little bit. You might not go all the way back. So it's going to be different for each person. Once you're here for a little while, you might take out some of the props as well. So figuring out your own props. Soften the abdomen. Lengthen through the abdomen to the knees, softening the knees. Finding a connection between your soft, lengthening abdomen to your soft inner thighs, to the soft inner knees. Flow the shoulders toward your hands, palms facing the ceiling. Soft abdomen, soft face. Let go of the muscles in the middle of your forehead, out to your temples. Soften your cheeks. Soften your jaw. And trying to find a connection between the soft abdomen, the soft inner thighs, the soft knees. Supta Virasana, reclined hero's pose. Soften the face. Soften the abdomen. Flow that soft abdomen through the inner thigh to the inner knees. And then to begin to come out, you can feel your feet with your hands, and use your elbows to lift, and then your hands to lift, and then keep coming forward, cross the shins, calf muscles, sit back, and extend your legs out. Now don't rush the legs straightening out. Take your time with the knees opening. Press through the heels and press through the roots of the thighs, and just allow the knees to open gradually. The knees will eventually open, but we just had them in an extreme bend. So let the knees open slowly, not by forcing the knees down, but forcing the heels down and the roots of the thighs down. Even beginning to press the thighs down, but not the knees. So our next pose is Supta Baddha Konasana. Supta Baddha Konasana has a similar setup to what we just had, but the legs are going to be in this position instead. So I'll show you quickly. If you already know the pose, go ahead and go into it. You'll need a strap for the feet. Okay, so I'll show you. I bring my feet together like a butterfly. So it's like this pose. And then the strap goes over the feet and under the legs. Okay? So over the feet and under the legs, and that'll just sit there for a moment. And then I lift up and go back to my elbows onto the bolster or blankets and back. And then the strap you can use to pull the feet in closer to the body, and then lift up and sit on the strap so it keeps the strap tight. Now, you're just watching now unless you know the pose, so you'll want to make sure that you have supports around for under your legs. You can put some support under the legs, either a blanket or a block. You could also use a block to support under the legs to allow for that softening of the inner thighs. And then we'll flow the shoulders to the hands, and I'll talk you through some more points. Okay? And then to come out, you'll move the stuff from the sides, use the muscles of your arms to bring the legs together, roll to your side, and come out. Okay? So similar setup to our last pose. If you need to make any adjustments, go ahead and do so. And then we'll go in together. So be sure you have something for under the knees, either a block or the blankets. Okay, so we'll sit in Baddha Konasana. Put the strap over the feet, so the soles of the feet are together. And then, so the strap is over the feet, under the legs, flowing the strap back. And then you'll let go of the strap for a moment. You'll lift up, lengthen your buttocks toward your feet, and then go down to your elbows, and then rest the head on the support. And then take the strap, pull those feet in, lift up your buttocks, sit on the strap. And then you want to support the legs in however you are supporting them, either the block under the knees or the blankets. And then you'll flow those shoulders toward the hands. And soften the face. Allow for a gentle softening of the diaphragm, that muscle that we use for breath. Just softening of the diaphragm, allowing the ribs to just gently spread. Soften the abdomen. Soften the inner thighs to the knees. Soften all the muscles on the face, from the middle of the forehead to the temples, from the temples down to the floor. Soften the cheeks and the jaw. Soften the throat and the neck. Flow those shoulders toward the hands. The palms are facing the ceiling, half open. And And again, try to find that connection between the soft abdomen to the soft inner thighs, to the soft inner knees. We have such habits of gripping the inner thighs that it takes conscious effort to continually go back and soften. Find a connection with the soft abdomen is helpful, but it still takes conscious effort. And our habits will creep back in until we refocus again on letting tension go in our abdomen, through our inner thighs to our inner knees. Soften the face. If you find that this is too much for your legs and you can't let go, then you can always take your legs one at a time out, more like in Shavasana where we just let the legs go. But if you can stay here, this is a helpful pose. One of the main focuses is letting go of the abdominal muscles and the inner thighs and inner knees. Letting go. So this support on the outer legs is very helpful for that. Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined bound angle pose. And the bound angle is the way that our legs are. Okay, to begin to come out, you're going to use the muscles of your arms to bring the legs together. And when we do that, we can allow the inner thigh to stay soft. So use the muscles of the arms to bring the legs together. And as you roll to the side, the belt is just released. So you'll just roll down to the side and then push yourself up. So our next pose is Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, and we'll be using these similar props as well. We'll be using them in a different way though. So for this bolster size that I have here, you can use 3 blankets like this, or fold towels in a similar way, so you have 3 blankets this way. And then your feet, you'll need either some blocks or maybe a couch cushion or some more blankets or towels like this. So you'll have this main support for your mid body, and now we'll drag it this way because our head and neck will go there. And then we'll have either 3 blankets or a bolster, and then you'll need something for under your feet. So in this case I have blankets here, but that couch cushion that I showed at the beginning could work for the feet. But this part you want narrow, so because our chest is going to open up with our back on this. Okay, so if you don't have extra blankets down there, you can use a block as well here for under the feet. So I'll show you first, and then we can go in together. If you know the pose, you can go into it. Okay, so I sit on the edge of the bolster here, or if it's blankets for you, and then I lie down on the bolster, elbows to the floor, and then I'm going to use the traction of the blankets to drag my trapezius muscle toward my buttocks until my shoulders get to the floor. So I keep pushing this way until my shoulders get to the floor, and then I take a leg up and a leg up on the support, flow the shoulders toward the hands. And so what happens here sometimes is I get light here, and so I want to make sure that I'm heavy on my shoulders. So I put my feet back on the floor, push this way again, flow down to the tops of those shoulders. So I'm heavy. I'm using my heels to press into my shoulders, and then I can go back up to the support and then flow the shoulders toward the hands. Now, sometimes when people go into this pose first, they don't realize that the shoulders are going all the way to the floor, and they end up on their head, which is the opposite of what we want to do here. In this pose, we want to flow down so our shoulders are solidly on the floor. The whole backs of my arms are on the floor as well. Okay, so now we'll go into it together, but I'll first show you how to come out. So I put my feet on the floor, and then I can just roll to the side. Okay, so we'll go in together. Just lean back onto the hands, and then down to the elbows. So you're lying back, and then flowing like a waterfall off the edge of the blankets. And you keep flowing until your shoulders get to the floor. So once your shoulders are to the floor, use your heels to push more this way to get solid on top of the shoulders, all the way down to the floor. And then extend your legs out to the props. And again, if you get light on the shoulders, put the heels back on the floor, push push toward the shoulders to get the shoulders to the floor, and then put the legs back up on the props. Flow the shoulders to the hands. Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. Building a bridge pose. Now this pose is a little funny because we keep our legs active. The inner thighs go down toward the floor. We also extend through the inner heel, big toe mound, and the little toe side comes back to those outer hips. So the legs stay active, but then the face lets go. And the abdomen softens. If you don't feel weight on your shoulders, bend your legs, put your feet on the floor, press into your heels, and push down onto those shoulders again to really get to the tops of those shoulders. And then re-soften the face and the jaw. Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. So be sure your legs stay active, your inner thighs toward the floor. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. So the toes are pointing up toward the ceiling. They're not just laying down to the side. So extend through the inner feet. Bring the little toe side back toward those outer hips. But soften the inner thighs. Soften the abdomen. Soften the face. And then to come out, bend your legs one at a time. Put your feet on the floor. And then roll to your side, keeping your head fully supported by the floor as you roll down. And then push yourself up. Our next pose is Salamba Sarvangasana, shoulder stand. So we'll fold the mat in half and scoot it right up against the wall. And then we'll take blankets and stack them 3 to 5 with the fold edge of the blanket along the fold edge of the mat. So again, if you're not doing shoulder stand, you can fast forward this to get to the next pose, which is a nice substitute for shoulder stand as well. So then we'll drag the setup toward the wall about 6 inches away. And if you know this pose, you can go up into it. Otherwise, I'll do a quick little demo first. Okay, so I lie down on the blankets with my head off the blankets, and then roll onto the back. And now my head is off the blankets, and I lift my tailbone and body up, and then roll a shoulder under, flow the hands toward the wall. So my bicep rolls from the inside out, getting more to the tops of the shoulders. And then my upper back goes away from the wall, my buttocks goes away from the wall. So I'm using my toes to really trying to find the alignment between my shoulders, my hips, my knees, and eventually my feet. So once I get to the tops of those shoulders, then I can put my hands on my back, and then maybe take a leg up, maybe take a second leg up. But it's okay if you stay the whole time with your feet on the wall, your buttocks going away from the wall, your upper back going away from the wall. All of that is okay. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. Salamba Sarvangasana. Okay, then to come out, we put our feet on the wall, and then come on down, and we'll go up together. So lie down on the blankets with your head off the blankets, just the shoulders on the blankets. And then use your feet on the wall to lift the torso up. Roll a shoulder under, flow those shoulders toward the hands, toward the wall. Roll the biceps from the inside out. Take your upper back away from the wall, the middle buttock away from the wall, and then you can put your hands onto your back body. Looking for a straight line from your shoulder to your hip, to your knees, and possibly your feet if you're going with your feet up today. Only stay as long as it feels okay for you. In the beginning, this pose is sometimes in the beginning we're working on alignment, trying to figure out the best way to be in the pose. But it does get easier and it gets better, and then it becomes one of our go-to poses every day. So the upper back comes away from the wall, and that buttock away from the wall, and then the front thighs lift up and go back toward the wall. When our feet are too far over our head, it puts more weight on our head than is good for us. We want the weight of the thighs to go back, but the buttock comes forward, so it's right up over the chest. Soften the forehead, soften the cheeks, soften the jaws. Flow the chin toward the back of the jaw, toward the floor. Lengthen the back of the skull away. Upper back away from the wall, tailbone, sacrum away from the wall, that middle buttock, thighs toward the wall.
Soften the face, no tension in the head. Make sure your weight of your body is not over your head, because you'll feel tension in the neck from that. If you can't keep your legs up in that position, then you can put your feet on the wall behind you or on the toes. But you don't want to feel a lot of pressure on your head and neck. The weight needs to be on your shoulders, in a straight line from your shoulders to your hips, to your knees, to your ankles. And then to come out, bend your legs, put your feet on the wall. And then as you allow your torso to come down, flow your shoulders off the blanket setup. So your shoulders are off the blankets, but just your hips are resting on the blankets. And pause for a moment. And then roll to your side and push yourself up. Our next pose is Viparita Karani, which has our legs up the wall. So you can use the blankets that we just used for this, but you would fold them in a narrow way. Fold them so they're narrow. And you really don't need the mat. Depends on what kind of flooring you're on. If you need the mat, you can decide. But these blankets would go right up against the wall, about 6 inches from the wall, maybe 4. And then to get into this one, we'll roll in a similar way we did with the last pose, but only our hips and buttocks and low back are on the blankets and our bodies on the floor. So if you know the pose, you can go up into it. Otherwise, I'll show you quickly. I put my hip on the edge of the blanket with my buttocks against the wall, and then I take the shoulder right in tight toward the blankets right near my leg here. So I bring the shoulder to this side of the blanket, not nearest to the camera, but my shoulder comes away from the camera. So I take the shoulder down and then roll the legs up. Okay, so then I'll talk about the legs and the shoulders once we're in it, but that's the way of getting in. Okay, so with a hip right at the edge of the blanket, my buttocks toward the wall, so now we're going in together. So you'll get this set up, buttocks into the wall, shoulder down right close, tight to the blankets and where I am, and then roll up. And then you can move the blankets under your buttocks to get a nice setup, and then extend through the inner heel, big toe mount. So again, the legs stay active in this pose, but we soften the abdomen. Viparita Karani means inverted lake pose, and the lake is the abdomen. Soft abdomen. The legs working around it, but the abdomen is soft. And then the shoulders flow under to your hands and soften the face and the neck and the head. And again, the shoulders are just flowing to the hands, the palms are facing up. The inner thighs go toward the wall behind you. They also flow through the inner knee, through the inner heel, big toe mound. If your legs are able, you'll have your legs joined together. The little toe side comes back toward the outer hip. If your feet are hip distance apart, that's no problem as well. It might be better for softening the inner thighs. So if you're not able to feel your inner thighs soft with your legs together, then take them apart to hip distance. And the feet are arranged with the inner foot going up and the outer foot going more down So the inner heel, big toe mound goes up, the little toe side goes down. Keep the legs active. Inner thighs go into the wall behind you. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. Little toe side comes back toward those outer hips. Soften the abdomen like a still lake. Soften the neck and throat and the face. The back of the skull lengthens away gently. And then to come out, bend your legs, put your feet on the wall. And then roll to the side, supporting your head fully. The head will be supported on the floor as you roll to the side. Then try to get all on one level. And then we're going straight into Shavasana. So you can lie down straight on the floor, or you can put your mat back out. You can put a little something under your head if you wish. One important thing with Shavasana is just that you get the props out of the way so you can just completely let go and nothing keeps you from letting go. So lie down on your back, put your feet on the floor with bent legs for a moment. Lift up and take the flesh of your buttocks away from the low back. So you're just lengthening the low back. And then take one leg out at a time. And then from there, just allow the legs to splay to the side. If you have glasses on, remove the glasses. Flow from your shoulders down to your hands. And start to let go. Soften the muscles in your face. From the middle of your forehead to your temples to the floor. Soften your cheeks and your jaw. Soften your throat and your neck. Soften your shoulders, flowing from your shoulders to your half-open hands. Soften your chest and your abdomen. Let go of any tension in your low back. And flow from your hips through your inner thighs to inner knees, to the calf muscles, to the inner heel, big toe mound. And on your next exhalation, imagine that you can just melt right into the floor.
to begin to come out of Shavasana, bend your arms, put your hands onto your front body, anywhere that's comfortable, your abdomen, your ribs, your chest. Bend your left leg, put your foot on the floor. Draw your right arm up and over your head. Put it off your left side and roll to your right, allowing your head to be supported on that arm. Draw your knees together for comfort. And then allow your chest to face the floor a bit to push yourself up into a seated position. Namaste.